So in the latest One Piece chapters, I just found this church that I really wanted to make in 3D. And unlike last time, I think this time around I tried to make the materials to begin with. Even though that takes a long time, I think it just makes it kind of easier to start modeling the process if you just have these core materials that you want in your scene to begin with. And I just tried to champion on to create all the materials that I wanted. And create mass variants with these because I obviously want to use the vertex coloring eventually to blend between the two. But one big issue here that I realized that is that if I'm creating all the materials from scratch right now, is that, well, I don't really know how this material will match with the other material. Will it blend too much together, or will it clash too much? And like the contrasts might be off and stuff like that. So I feel like I needed to kind of tackle that quite early in this process. So I just went back to the reference image and did a little color overlay of how I just kind of had like an idea of how I wanted things to be. And then I just started doing the kind of like core modeling or white box modeling in Blender, using a lot of booleans and stuff like that just to get like an idea of what I want. And I can say like I actually ended up using a lot of the booleans in the Blender project, in the final product as well, because with some tessellation and sometimes some remeshes I needed to do as well, it kind of worked pretty well, I think. One thing that I realized I kind of made as like a mistake was because I think last time I did one trim sheet per material, so like the wood got an entire trim sheet and stuff like that. And this time I was thinking, well, maybe it's better if I bake different kind of materials into one sheet. So like metal and metallic would be in the same kind of trim sheet. I kind of regret doing this, to be honest, because now sometimes when I had different width of metals, all of them had to kind of like be squashed into this one metal rim that I had dedicated in the trim sheet. And I feel like if I really wanted the modularity of being able to like pick and choose, or like the for the trim sheet tool in Blender to be able to like pick based on width, then I should have made a different trim sheet for every material. But this was still a really fun thing to do. I think this was the first time I did the trim sheet in Substance Designer. I had previously done trim sheets through, just Blender, ZBrush, and then Substance Painter. But I actually did really enjoy creating the Substance Designer trim sheet. It's a very like flexible, modular kind of workflow, but it became like very chaotic. You can see the network here, where especially like when I'm trying to make different kind of node networks for metallic and roughness and everything, then it's really becoming a shitstorm. This is kind of something that I realized. Like I was trying to get the bricks on the wall, but I couldn't really get them to fit with each other. So I think I was like, I'm like I have to remake them because they're kind of like squashing into each other rather than overlapping each other, and I was not getting that. So especially sometimes I felt like, oh, it works kind of in Substance Designer, but not in on the 3D model. So I opted to make this kind of material as well that I didn't love either, but I felt like it was at least a bit closer to what I should have rather than the first iteration of the material. And then secondly, I was also just um, trying it on. Oh yeah, exactly. Like it really didn't work with the vertex painting, but this one, because the material feels a bit softer, I think it works better with the vertex painting. So that's why I started. I felt like this was more in line in what I needed than the previous material. And it's quite an easy task to do with Zen UV if you guys haven't used it yet. Like my friend recommended this one, and for doing hotspot mapping and trim sheets, it's really amazing. It saves you so much time. It's kind of insane. And then one of the things that I really wanted to do was the palm tree, and you have like a template for palm tree in SpeedTree anyway that you can kind of use. But then I, of course, felt like, well, the palm tree bark is really realistic, so I wanted to make that myself. And then I think I'm getting quite comfortable in Substance Designer now that I decided to do it here, and I'm quite happy with the result as well. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is the material in SpeedTree. It doesn't look that good in SpeedTree. It looks better in Unreal. Uh, but yeah, I mean the palm tree that you see in here, it's basically just like the template speed tree palm tree that you can lift in. So to make it stylized, I felt like it was a really easy step to take. And so I mean everything in this project is pretty much done with tileable materials and the trim sheet, with the exception of the church tower thing. And the bell, which in my concept I kind of earmarked that I would do for hand. So these are like more painted by hand, not painted by hand. They're everything is pretty much stenciled out in Substance Painter. Um, but I kind of uh, decided that I would dedicate more time for these to be a bit more on their own texture sheet and not do like a tileable material or trim sheets or something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know this wasn't as detailed as my last project, but I feel like I don't know if there was that much that was added onto this one in comparison to the last one. I think it was pretty straightforward. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it ended up quite well, like in terms of being cohesive. There are some artifacts that I'm not too happy about, but I think I'm just gonna let it go and continue with my next project.